Isn't that the strangest thing?
Isn't
The fan
that
goes
something?
on. That means Grandpa is in the room. He
He's
hears
here.
us listening.
He's trying to help me. He's trying to say, come on, wake up.
That is the bizarrest thing.
Yeah, how about that? Do you believe
I
it?
believe you now.
Yeah. Yeah, how
Isn't
about
that funny? The fan
That's
just
so
kind of...
cool.
And it's going fast.
I know.
Sometimes it goes medium.
Yeah, he's telling you to wake up, lady. You
Wake
remember?
Now, hesitating here, I mean, yeah, that was the big auditorium in San Francisco. Oh, and then Southern Pacific. When they get a new train,
Yeah.
well then we would go, maybe there'd be about 3 of us from different stores, and we would go into the train and modeled with nice, beautiful clothes, and go into the sitting room and pretend we were reading, and then we'd go into the lounge and have lunch.
Oh.
Did you make any friends in the hat business?
Oh, yes, I made lots of them, honey, but you know, that is so long ago. I can't even remember their names.
So you were in your 20s when you were a hat model,
Yeah,
a hat
yeah.
model.
Yeah.
Okay. So we want to know about some of your friends growing up. So let's say if you can remember back to elementary school,
Yeah.
walking home, or who was it?
I had, my very dear friend was Jenny, but I don't remember her last name. And the other one was Millie Marino. And we were real close friends. But again, we just saw one another at school and then just said goodbye at the door of our homes.
So you were not allowed to spend the night?
It was never suggested. Nobody ever did that. I mean, my girlfriends never had anyone for dinner or...
So you never went over to anybody's house for dinner?
No.
Okay, so when you started to raise your kids...
When I started to raise our 3 children, the door was open.
So
Anybody that wanted to come in for dinner, and Dad used to buy cases of drinks, and they would stop in after school and pick orange or strawberry or whatever drink they wanted, and they would visit.
So you were always a housewife, Grandma, right?
Yeah, yes.
Was that your choice, or was that the way that the...
No. Grandpa never thought of me working.
Never.
No, I was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay, that's good.
How did you meet Grandpa, Grandma?
I met Grandpa in Sonoma at Boy Springs. That's in the Valley of the Moon. And they had a huge swimming pool there and a dance hall, a big dance hall. And they had the best bands. They used to sound like Guy.
So the big bands, the big band music?
Yes, they were just big bands. And the music was wonderful. And I would go with my cousins. And because the cousins lived in
Sonoma.
And so then I would go, and Grandpa would be there with his brothers, Clarence and his brother Jerry. And so we were cousins, and there were 5 of us. And so they would just automatically just come over by us, and we'd dance all the time. But we didn't date or go out when I went home to San Francisco. And then Cochran's sister called me and asked me if I would like to go out. And I said yes, but she didn't tell me what his name was. And when the doorbell rang, I was very surprised it was Dad.
So you'd met him prior up at dancing,
yes,
and
a long time.
Okay.
We danced just in the summertime.
And how old were you?
Oh, I was, let's see, I was 21 then. 21 or 22.
Okay.
And then...
So living at home still with your parents?
I was living at home.
Working at the hat or the retail store?
Yeah, always in the retail. And then, I was working. And then...
So you go to the dances, and what happened with Papa? How long did you date Papa, or how did he...
let's see, I got married when I was 25.
Okay.
And we had a wedding up in Sonoma. And then we got married May 11th, 1940. And Grandpa bought me my first beautiful home.
Where was that?
In San Francisco on 20th Avenue.
Do you remember the address?
3036 20th Avenue.
That's right.
And we were between Ocean and Eucalyptus.
How long did you live in that house?
35 years.
That's right.
Until all my children married, 3 of them in 11 months.
All 3 of them got married in 11 months.
In 11 months.
So who got married first?
Katie.
So Bill and Katie.
Katie, and then
Mom.
Bob and
Joan.
Yeah. And then your mom, Pat, and Jean married. They were the babies.
Okay, so let's go back to Grandpa when you first started. You met Grandpa at a dance, and then you lived in San Francisco and he lived in Sonoma.
No, he lived in San Francisco too.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, but we didn't date.
You didn't date.
No,
Okay, so when did you start dating, Grandma? When did you start dating? I mean, did he ask you out, or what was how did they handle back then?
My cousin
had set you up on a blind date?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's the way it went. The thing happened that we would... she asked me if I wanted to go for a date, and I said, well, it all depends. And I was, let's see, I guess I was 19 years old. And I said, okay. And then when she came with her boyfriend, which she married later, it was Bill. And I was very surprised.
And did he know did he know he was dating you that day?
Yeah,
Okay, so he was after you. And how long did he pursue you? Were you dating other people at the time?
I was dating other people, yes. I was dating 3 other people.
Good job, Grandma.
Yeah.
And how long did it take him to...
it took him a long time.
To win your heart.
Until he found out I was going steady with another boy.
Yeah.
And it's so strange. His name was Dino Rustani.
Dino Rustani, and Grandpa found out that you were dating somebody else, and he didn't like it.
Through my cousin.
And he found out you were...
And then he got serious.
Oh, then he wanted to be exclusive.
Yes.
Okay. So, is there any other questions?
What is your fondest memory, Grandma?
My fondest memory?
I'm sure you have a lot of them.
Yeah, but my
So let's say in your ages of motherhood, what would your fondest memory be of?
Oh,
When you became a mother.
And 3 months after we were married, I was expecting my first baby, and that was the biggest thrill.
So 3 months, was it a honeymoon baby?
No.
No, so 3 months after you got married.
After we got married, I became pregnant. Then 2.5 years later, I became pregnant again. 2.5 years later, I became pregnant again.
Okay.
I
So,
had 2 handsome boys and a beautiful daughter.
okay, so you never had to work
No,
once you got married.
never worked.
And
I
what
worked
did
in
Papa
the
do?
house.
What did Papa do?
Oh, he was working in the steel business at Gilmore Steel. He'd been working there for a long time.
Was he the big chief? What was his title?
At the end, he was vice president.
Vice president.
Yeah, he
So-
worked there for 52 years.
What was one of his major projects that he had ever worked on? Did he ever work on, I think it was the Golden Gate Bridge, or
Oh, yes, the Golden Gate Bridge.
Was one of his
That
jobs?
Yes, and his commercial car was the first one that went over the bridge.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
He was able to drive over?
yeah.
Did he walk on there? I mean, was he on the project?
They drove.
They drove.
Yeah, they drove, and Gilmore supplied loads of steel. See, it was a steel company.
Right, right. So tell me about your life with Papa. Would you consider yourself in the higher class, the middle class? Where would you guys
I would say we were the middle class.
Middle class.
Yes. It was, I never wanted for anything.
But you always had everything.
Had everything.
Okay. So tell me about being a housewife. How was your life when the kids were off to school? What would you do during the day?
Well, I would clean up a little bit, look in their rooms, but they were good about putting things away. But then I drove, and Grandpa bought me a car. So I had my dear friend Evie Borger that lived 2 houses down from where we lived on 20th Avenue. And I would call her and I'd say, "Are you ready?" We'd jump in my car and we would drive all over down the peninsula.
Just to go for a
Shop.
ride?
Oh, shop, because they had Nordstrom's down there.
Oh,
And
okay.
we liked Nordstrom's. And we didn't have it in the city. And then we would drive to Sonoma just to buy the French bread
Yeah, I see that.
and cheese.
And
And then we'd always have lunch at a nice place.
so it sounds like you were living the life.
And, yeah.
You did. You had a nice life.
Yeah, and then every Monday, Tommy, my little Japanese house cleaner, would come.
Okay, I do remember Tommy.
Tommy? Yes, and we were just in our new house, and Grandpa came home, and he said, "I have someone to come in and clean the house once a week." So that's what I had, and I still, to this day, have it.
I know you do. Do you have any idea how much you paid Tommy?
I
on a
paid Tommy 50 cents an hour.
50 cents an hour.
50 cents.
And how long would Tommy be there for on Mondays?
He'd come and practically stay all day. He'd shine the hardwood floors. Are they there?
So every day, Grandma, you cooked for the family?
Yes, I cooked for our family, and I shopped every day for dinner.
You shopped every day?
Every day for whatever I made. And I would have a full course dinner.
Would you consider yourself a good cook, Grandma?
Well, I didn't, but my family thought I did.
She was a very
They
good
liked
cook.
Everything. But I spent a lot of time cooking.
Were you creative when you made the meals, or did you go by recipe?
Oh, honey, I went a little by recipe, but most of my delicious recipes were from my mother verbally.
Wow.
What were some of your favorite ones, Grandma, that you can recall?
The veal scallopini.
That was our favorite.
Yummy.
And there was another one she made, and I used to make it too. You would take veal, and you would put like a dressing for the ravioli in it, and then you would roll it and put a toothpick in it, and then I would brown it.
Like stuffed veal. It sounds good.
Stuffed veal.
It was, honey. They loved it. And then it was with white wine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it made a delicious sauce. They liked it. And then I made a lot of stuffed zucchini, and stuffed onions with ravioli filling.
What was your ravioli filling? Was it meat?
No, it was all, yes, it would be pork.
Pork.
Yeah, pork. And then we would put the spaghetti gravy over the onions, the little pieces of onions.
Ooh.
Yeah, they were good. Yeah.
So that was your job, to go out and have fun, shop, and come home and make dinner. And didn't Papa have a special request of his plates? Didn't you have to do something special with Grandpa's plates? Tell Gianna what you had to do.
Yes, Grandpa was tall and thin. He never weighed more than 75 or 76 pounds. And he would eat a full course dinner, but only small portions. He didn't like his dish overflowing with food, and he liked warm plates.
Warm plates.
Yes, but he never requested that. But I did it because I knew he liked it.
Warm plates. So what would you do?
I put the dishes in the oven because it had a pilot light.
And it would warm it.
And it'd keep the dishes warm.
Isn't that interesting?
That's so cool, Grandma.
You have a question? Go ahead.
And he liked his tomatoes peeled.
Yes, he did. Grandma had to peel his tomatoes. Did you ask another question?
Going back a little, Grandma. Going back a little in time, when you were younger, did you play any sports?
No, we didn't play sports, honey. My mom used to take me down to the playground, and I had a bicycle. And I'd ride all over. That was my activities. No, we never played the sports, honey. Any of my friends, it just wasn't.
Okay, so back then, what do you see different about our generation and what's the most thing that stands out in your mind for 100 years ago of the difference between our kids being grown up and the way you were raised?
I think the way I was raised, we lived in a flat, and the bathroom was out on the porch.
Oh.
And then we didn't have fancy clothes like the girls of today.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I'm looking at right now.
But you dressed very nicely.
Well, we were dressed nice, but not very fancy, honey. We wore dresses because we didn't have pants then.
Was it a very materialistic, do you think that it was very competitive when it came to what you wore, or did you wear uniforms?
Nothing like that. We all wore about the same things, I think they were bought all in the same store, just dresses and skirts and blouses.
Do you, as far as judging people and back then, was there, I'm just trying to figure out the difference between society today.
Oh, society today, then there was no trying to outdo anybody.
Yeah.
No. I guess it's because we lived in North Beach and we just, everyone lived the same way. There was no someone trying to outdo the other.
Right.
All my cousins lived around, and we went to their homes for dinner. That was it.
So let's move forward. You went out of the city and you moved to Walnut Creek.
We lived in Bill and I lived in San Francisco in our home for 35 years. Then, after the 3 children married in 9 months, I wanted to move to Marin County, but Bob moved over to Lafayette, so we came over this side, and I was up in Portland, and Bob told me to hurry up home because Dad was looking at homes over here. I was so happy. So then I came home, and we started to look in Lafayette, because that's as far as he said he would go. And then we got there, and I never went into so many homes that were not kept up like mine in San Francisco. And I said, and Bob would say, "Oh, we can fix it up. It'll really be nice." And then I said, "No." Then the real estate lady said, "I have a lovely home in Walnut Creek." And I've been living in this house now for, how many years is your mom and dad?
76 is when we moved over.
Yeah, all right. Well, 75.
75.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd have to do the math on that, but almost close to 40 years.
Yeah. So we're living.
So you lived here since 75.
I've been here since 75.
Did you like this style of living, or did you find this living compared to San Francisco?
I was so happy. And we moved into a neighborhood that was like the one we had on 20th Avenue.
With lots of kids, or because you didn't have kids, but...
Oh, yes, there were children here. Let's see, there was 6, 2 girls and 4 boys.
So you moved over to 51 Brubaker Drive in 75. You've been here for almost 40 years. Do you ever regret leaving the city?
Never regretted leaving the city.
Never.
This has been God's heaven to me. It's just wonderful.
Right. So what would you say, Grandma, if you were to look back and say on your life, is there any point or anything that really, really stands out in your life that you would want your kids to know about you, or your grandkids to know down the road, or anything about you, or a message that you would say to them that would want us to know or always cherish? Anything about that you can think of that your message to all of us?
Oh my gosh, honey. This has been the most wonderful part of my life. From the day the first grandchild was born, which was Vince and then Gina, a boy and a girl. We were so happy. Dad and I were so happy. These are the most things that I remember. and think how fortunate I am at 99 years old, and then to have 15 beautiful grandchildren, and they're all beautiful girls with 2 boys that are handsome.
That's for sure.
I wouldn't change that. This is my life. It's my family, and I love each and every one of you. It is hard to explain how much love I have for each and every one of you. And whatever Grandma does in her life now, she is choosing to do it. This is her will. And I can't tell you how much I love each and every